You know what? Let's just get into the lesson. Aye. Satan upoyile bafethu. So essentially, in this module, I'll make it quick. I'll run through it. Why? Because I've invited a buddy of mine in the industry to come and do a deep dive into recruitment and selection next week. So here it's just an intro in terms of the concept so that you get a bit acquainted with them. That's why I wanted to focus more on the empowerment section so that he can focus more on this detail. So I'll just brush over it. So you'll understand what recruitment and selection is. We'll outline both the recruitment and the selection processes. Recruitment essentially just means attracting the most qualified people. To recruit people would be like to put an advert, for example, that says that there are 10 posts. Whoever qualifies environmental health practitioners from this grade, this is where the location of the post is, this is the company that's hiring, the closing date is this date, the payment structure or remuneration structure is on this grade, and it starts from this one and it ends here. And, you know, these are the requirements of that particular post. So that's a post advert, for example. Then different mediums are then used when it comes to advertising those particular posts. The most common now being online, obviously, where we can share via WhatsApp groups, we can share via LinkedIn, we can share via other profiles, so that people who need to apply for these particular posts can get that particular post or position. So it's just a way of inviting people to come and apply. So selection is now when you start choosing people to work for that particular organization of yours. What would attract people to a job vacancy? I think we touched on it through those tips. Ne? So the process by which a job vacancy is identified and potential employees are notified. The nature of the recruitment process is regulated and subject to employment law. That's why there are laws such as the Basic Conditions of Employment Act, the Labor Relations Act, and so on. Even employment equity actually plays a role, because with affirmative action, they look at race dynamics and how other races have benefited in the past more than other races. They also look at the population density within that particular post, right? To see within the department, how many whites are there, how many coloreds are there, how many Indians are there, how many blacks are there, and who are most disenfranchised or who are the most disadvantaged within that particular group. And therefore, when the post comes around, to actually conform to affirmative action and employment equity, then they apply those particular laws. So those are just examples of that. So firstly, you do a needs analysis. Do we really need this particular post, right? Because what happens sometimes is that an employer will look at whether the post itself is necessary. I'll make an anecdotal example or a personal example. With the company, we had two people, EHPs working for the company, and then they were responsible for a particular client. We worked with them for 3 months, held their hand, explained how things work within the company, how to service the client, what needs are you satisfying and demands are you meeting for that particular client. Then we just let you go because we've trained you, you are ready, according to us, you are ready. Then a month and a half later, we get reports the client wants to pull out because these people are using their resources for their own things. They are not there to work. They are not delivering on the spec as per the signed contract, etc., etc. Then what happens is that we let them go, right? After letting them go, we now have to do a situational analysis. Did we need them in the first place? If we held your hand for 3 months, meaning we're doing the work with you based on the client's needs and the client was happy, we let you go to win off the client on your own, and then you failed, we do a situation analysis. Maybe let's run for 3 months without filling this post and see what happens, right? If we find after 3 months that actually we are growing or we are facing challenges and we do need extra hands, then the job vacancy has to be available. That's where we put now the job description and specifications. They go to our HR department, they check whether suitability for the post and the money, the area in which they'll be operating, as well as the number of hours in which they'll be operating are actually best suited. Once that passes and the CEO signs it, then an advert can go out. With corporate media or wide scale or mainstream media, that's where adverts are actually paid for. That's why online now is most comfortable for most organizations. But at the same time, you also need to look at the risk of fraudulent activity surrounding your company. How can people take advantage? Last a year and a half ago, I think it was, there were people who were actually using our company to attract people and then scamming them. If you go to our social media, you actually see where we posted that scammer alert 123 and we gave descriptions around it because people would actually be called to be cleaners, your general application jobs. And then when they get there, they scan, they tell them you need to pay this money for uniform and so on. So social media and certain types that expose a business to such actually exist. So that's why large scale companies prefer to still pay mainstream media when it comes to advertising on those platforms, because then they are considered legit. So an advert is in the media, then people start applying, the applications are then received.
So say, I wanted to ask that in terms of Employment Equity Act, do employers let their applicants know that, for example, they specifically need females, or they do that by themselves?
To be honest, I'm not sure at the stringency of that particular act in terms of declaring. What they can do, they don't need to put it specifically. That's what I know. That they can just put it generally and say the Employment Equity Act is applicable to these posts. But I don't think the Employment Equity Act actually specifies to say you must be specific in terms of highlighting to the applicants that that's the case. Obviously, it would make things easier on all sides, right? Because you would apply knowing, this one, I'm just taking chances or whatever the case is. If it's meant for you, you get it regardless. Maybe you stood out well enough, so maybe you get it anyway. Or maybe that particular group of individuals didn't apply, even though they had an advantage to actually get that particular position, right? So I'm not sure if it's that explicit, but I do think that maybe you do need to generalize. I'm not sure if you need to say, well, we are looking for 3 white males, for example. And also, there's also tiers and layers around it as well, whereby even when you put it generalistic like that, then you would say that this particular groups will be favored. It's unlikely for you to put a single group that will be favored. So you can say white, black, and Indian females will take first preference. So as a male, when you apply, it's not that you won't get the position, but it may be a bit difficult. Then the applications are received, then the applications are then captured. From there, that's where the recruitment process actually ends. After the applications are then captured, right? And remember, the applications are received through different modes. It can be online applications. It can be that people have to physically drop off. Usually they do the drop off if they want people within that particular area or particular region. So it becomes difficult for someone in Limpopo to come under short notice to just drop off in this particular box, not knowing how the application is going to go. So that's where the recruitment process will then end. Ne? Is it clear? Super. Then selection is where now the next step. So the process by which a job vacancy is identified and potential employees are notified. So we've received and recorded the applications. Now we need to shortlist. After shortlisting, we need to contact the shortlisted candidates for an interview or for the post. There are some posts where there's no need to interview people. They are general posts, so there's no need. But there are some where specialization is key and you only have 2 posts, but the number of candidates are a lot who fit the specifications of the advert or the actual job description and specifications of the job. Then you actually have to interview them to get your best candidate. To be honest, are interviews still the best way of getting the best candidate?
No, no, no.
Who says yes? Are interviews still the best way to get the best candidate for a particular post? So who says yes? By raising your hands. One against how many? Who says no? The rest are indifferent. Do you know what indifferent means? What does indifferent mean? Neither here nor there. What does neither here nor there mean in a class where I'm asking a question? Are interviews still the best mechanism for selecting the best candidate? Yes or no? By show of hands, who says yes? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. By show of hands, who says no? So by majority, no wins. So I'd like no to sell their case. That's why you're afraid to pick up your hands, because you know where it's going. But I wanted to go there. I wanted to go there. Like what?
Let's say someone who's doing
Yeah, let's use environmental health. Yeah.
maybe you can take them for outdoor inspection, and the inspection you can do what going to
Okay, that's a good point. Ne? So on the job specific assessment, right? Like an appraisal that's on the job, not just, but why is the interview for an EHP then not? Because that's a good example to counter it, right? To say it's not, this is the best method. Why is the EHP aspect not a good way of actually selecting the best candidate? Remember, the question was, is it still the best? There was yes and no. Then you were with no and justifying that, right? But you gave a solution beyond the question. So I want to know, why are the interviews themselves not the best candidate, the best way?
I feel like going to interviews just how well you solve the problem, like how well you hold the conversation. It doesn't really mean that I can do like a good conversation. I might know some of my things and I might start because like our interaction. And then when it's time for me to do my job, I don't know much. I don't know how to properly do the job. So
You don't know the execution.
exactly.
You just know the theory.
Because I'm good at speaking, but then I can't actually convey that in practical.
Okay, there's a yes to counter you now.
Yes, I'm a good I wanted to say, so it's fine. I can agree to say, you can say you want to give somebody the work to conduct so that you can serve to say they can be selected. But what if they do that and then they don't have experience? Similarly to the interview, when you are being to be seated, they can't ask you what you are not getting experience on, but they want to just actually get if there's a problem, how can you present a solution? Let's say, for instance, can use for where they are engineers and they are PhDs, as to say they are performing these things. Like, let's say I'm a professional hygienist. So we're having an issue of plant here. So when we're having the issue of the plant, in the interview panel, we give you that scenario. So we want to see, based on what you have presented in your CV, already you have presented how you are the best to be selected. So can you, because sometimes you can get a umlaut, but when you get to be interviewed, what is on the umlaut does it correspond with what you are? So that is the issue. And then also selection, to say you are giving you a task, what if you come with a report that is not how us in the municipality perhaps we have to write it? So then it's something again.
Okay, who's ready to counter? Lerato?
Say,
Were you yes or no?
no.
Okay. No, you're not alone actually. There was about 6, 7 hands.
Yes. According to the scenario that Terence gave, the person can they can bring a scenario and ask the person how can they kind of solve it. Can that question be asked on a paper? Because I think most people fail at interviews because of nerves and being afraid of the panel and the questions. Not that they don't know, but say it's one of those things that is the company might lose one of the best candidates just because of like things like that. So they can
Okay.
find different means to like ask those questions and find the person.
Okay, I think
Who was supporting Terence? Who has a yes? Because I want to get to the mind. This is like a semi-interview, but in front of people, right? What is your mindset when you actually said yes to that question? You need to be able to back yourself up. That's the whole point of these interactions. You need to back yourself up, then stand out. Maybe I like the way you think, and maybe there's something in the future. You need to sell yourself, right? So who else said yes? Please counter what Lerato has put on the table to say it's nerves. Sometimes I just can't articulate myself. I prepared for 3 weeks straight. I consulted, I went to my networks, I opened textbooks, I went through the IDP of this municipality and that. I know the gaps and differences here and there, but once I'm here, June, July. How do you counter that? Okay. In between is better than indifferent, right? Because the CV is already written down. So you must go for meditation classes before. But to be honest, I'd say the best answer is that it's a combination. Because I've had circumstances, I'll give you a lot of personal experiences because that's the beauty of having your own company, is that you have personal experiences. I've had personal experiences where I was ear to ear when interviewing a candidate, only for them now on the job. Yo, we're talking qualified EHP here, but on the job, you know. So it has to be a combination whereby you have those practical examples, but at the same time, how feasible are they? Remember when managing whatever organization, department, you also look at budgets. How really can you best give them a scenario that won't cost the department more than it needs to? How can you be able to critically unlock those aspects in what the post wants? So the CV is one thing. They have to deliver the basics of what the post wants, and then they have to then go over and above, right? Then you have your matrix or scoreboard or score sheet where you'll be able to look at all sides. How well can these people speak? Because I need them to sit in front of clients and sell particular points. Clients out there don't know about occupational health and safety, and they don't know whether they are doing things right according to how they must do them. And they have staff of 400 people that need to be trained. So you need to be able to articulate yourself. If there's 4 of us in a panel and you can't articulate yourself with just 4 of us, how are you going to represent the organization when there's 400? You know, when there was COVID, you are noted. When there was COVID and it had just come in, unfortunately, we had to learn immediately, what is this COVID? How does it work? Because departments wanted answers from environmental health specifically. You know, so we had to go from depot to depot, went to energy, transport. Those people don't know anything. They're general workers, solid waste. They go there, they carry bins, go take them to the landfill site, and they get paid. But you had to be there and teach them about, in their environment. So you're there at the depot, you're outside now, social distance. What is the social thing? You need to be able to articulate that. You need to be able to stand in a circle and there are questions running left, right, and center. And HR is also there looking at you because they need to be able to answer when questions flow their way as well. So articulation, this thing that I keep emphasizing, you need to get out of your shell no matter what, because sometimes you're just put on the spot. And a person who can speak will always, unfortunately, have an advantage over someone who can't. So you need to then limit that advantage as far as possible, as far as reasonably possible. Because when it comes, all you need to do is get out of that shell for like 30 minutes. Then afterwards, you can go back and say, I killed it. And then go back, get out of that shell just for 30 minutes, and then you've sold yourself. Then departments and organizations can find those other mechanisms as well of testing the skill set side of things, while being cognizant of the point that was made there regarding how ready is the person for that particular position or post. Were they inducted? Were they orientated? Did they get experience from elsewhere? And is the question itself suitable to accommodate those that are applying for that basic post as well?
So I wanted to counter the one of that to say you must always arrive. So let's say now in the next day, let's say we say to be assessed before we can be employed. I happen to be asked about something that I did in my second year. How would that be? Rather than be able to say, because the CV, you can't say you have good interpersonal communication skills, and then tomorrow you pay me to the panel. Then it means you are also lying. What's the impact of the you as an employee? Because why do you write something but you pay it to the interview panel? So I think also you emphasized to say you are going to be at some point where you have to communicate with the client. So why are you going to be always in an action? You can't talk, you can't express your view. So how do you, let's say, you want to recruit, you want to have our own marketing strategies, and then at some point the speakers of the organization are not there. So we are trusting you with the task. Because you once hoped that we have interpersonal communication skills, but you are saying you can't speak. So those are the issues to say. Interview also opens you to be able to articulate, to back up what is on the CV. If you're right, it's going to be unfair because you might be asked about, let's say it's the municipal post. They asked you the question within the environmental impact assessment. By the look of things, you've done that thing in the second year for planning for built environment. So how fair is that going to be? Who must mark that?
Okay, I got you.
But so what he's saying doesn't make sense because when you go to an interview, when you go to an interview,
Let's hear out. Let's hear out.
asking about what you wrote on your CV.
No, I'm saying in terms of assessing.
Yes.
In terms of
Wait. You were given the platform.
They already know you wrote whatever. You should be able to back that up. But then you're gonna get there and they're gonna ask you whatever climate change mitigation factors. Because now it's not on your CV, and when you did climate change in second year, you're gonna say there's nothing, you're asking me that question, and I don't remember. But as an HP, you're supposed to know this, right? So there's no way you're gonna say, how come like I learned it second? You learned it for a reason. That's why they're asking because you learned it, so you're supposed to know it.
Okay. No, you're making valid points. Ne? But I think the point has been made on both sides. What I want to encapsulate from what this discussion ended up being is that what you write on your CV has to be a true reflection of who and what you are. Remember that not every single post that you apply for, you are meant to get. Sometimes, if you don't fit the job specs, I know, of course, we spoke about the unemployment rates and everything, and everyone has to call their shot, they learn along the way and so on. But you need to at least be confident that you'll be able to back up what you wrote down. It's a tool, it's a selling tool. I come to you with a pamphlet, hey, we provide occupational health and safety training. Then tomorrow or the same day, you like, hey, give me a code. Then now I'm still going, scratching my head to find out where will I get a manual to train me. You have to be ready to take over that post, essentially. You learn certain things, yes, but represent whatever is on that particular CV. Ne? I like the engagement. It makes the class more fun. But selection, basically, it's a process that begins when the verification happens. A pool of clients are selected from the verification. In government, for example, there's this Z83 form. Sometimes it actually replaces your CV because it captures all of those components there on the particular CV. References can be used to verify, and previous employers can also be used to verify. Speaking of verification and preliminary screening. I'd like us to discuss one more thing, then we just move swiftly past the other things. What do you guys think about criminal records in this screening and verification process? Is it fair?
No.
How many people say no? Criminal records. 1, 2, 3, 4. How many people say yes? I'll take it everyone else says yes. If there's 4 that say no, automatically